Gaza, another matter altogether. We are paying for our fidelity to a people. 85% of the Israeli people who are Jewish are for this war. They don't necessarily like Netanyahu, but they are for what he's doing. We are lashed up to them in a way that is so debilitating, so against our national security interests, so against our humanitarian and reputational interests, that it makes your heart hurt to be in Washington and see it happening every day. It's unconscionable what I'm seeing happening in Washington. And every time somebody excoriates me or comes after me in some way for my appearances on television or whatever, I get a even more visceral view of these poisonous people who think, first, too many of them think Israel's doing the right thing. One said to me, a patent neoconservative, if they weren't killing them, we'd have to be there killing them. And I asked him, explain yourself. What the hell do you mean? They're all terrorists. Those women and children at the foot of that hospital, that 2,000-pound bomb dropped on that you made and sent to them, they're terrorists? Well, they're supporting terrorists. They'll grow up and be terrorists. It reminded me of what one person told me, a Serb who was a sniper in Sarajevo, and he just shot a 13-year-old boy on the street. And he was asked by a UN peacekeeping force officer why he did that. And he said, because he'll grow up to be a terrorist. Well, that's what these people think. That's what these people think, and that's what Netanyahu thinks. And let me tell you another thing about Netanyahu and what he's been doing since he was finance minister. Netanyahu, first of all, running for office, created the turmoil and the anger that got Yitzhak Rabin assassinated. And then the settler who assassinated him, he resurrected him and made him a hero. This is Bibi Netanyahu. This isn't something new, what he's doing. He's been doing this for over 15 years, personally orchestrating it. Now, he's in and out of the political realm in different niches because he has to keep getting elected, otherwise he'd go to jail. But he's been doing this, what has now come to fruition in Gaza, for longer than 15 years. Slowly but surely, he's been exterminating the Palestinians in the West Bank. If you've been there, you know that it now has roads running through it. Some of them look like Autobahns, and they're all to connect Israeli settlements and to screen out Palestinians. Ben-Gvir has brought a new vengeance to this. Ben-Gvir, his director of security, is handing out weapons now, AR-15 type weapons now for the settlers. Because what is their intent now that they've almost finished the West Bank and they've started on and will finish East Jerusalem fairly swiftly? Their intent is to go into Gaza and to do it in Gaza. You may have seen the protests that occurred around the food, I wouldn't call them protests, the turmoil that occurred around the food trucks not too long ago, about a week ago or so, and they killed a couple of hundred people. Well, part of that was because they got the settlers in there too. The settlers are getting ready to do the things they did in the West Bank and in East Jerusalem, but now in Gaza. Rafah, and what he's going to do there is probably the final act in terms of extermination, just outright extermination, and evacuation. He's going to have some left. So my query the other day of one of the guys who's been talking about this with me is, he's on the ground in Gaza. What do you think is going to happen to the ones that are left alive? Well, they're going to go somewhere, and it isn't going to be staying in Gaza. Well, Egypt has said they won't take them. Jordan has said they won't take them. You can't push anymore into other places. You can't push them into the Sinai. What is going to happen? Well, he'll cross that bridge when he comes to it. I said, man, I've heard that before. Where'd you hear that before? When Will Taft, Powell's lawyer, asked Rumsfeld, Will said essentially, You got a 13-year-old down there in Guantanamo. A 13-year-old. Let's say he lives to be 80. Are you prepared to see him stay there for almost another 70 years? And Rumsfeld looked at him and said, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Well, Rumsfeld's dead. We've crossed that bridge and we still have people in Guantanamo. Bibi wants to get through this, stay out of jail, and turn it over to the next guy who will do the same damn thing because they've been doing it since 1967. Palestinians would probably say they've been doing it since the Nakba. But they've definitely been doing it in contravention of international law, in contravention of what we say we stand for since 1967. And here's another thing. I became an amici curiae on a court case that hinges around the courts, and we're contesting this decision by the courts at the federal district level having decided that Gaza is a foreign policy issue, and so the courts have no jurisdiction. And one of the things they're claiming is that Israel's actions on October the 7th were self-defense under Article 51 of the UN Charter. Here's my argument back to them. Israel has been under the UN Charter as an occupying power and under Geneva since 1967. It has never fulfilled its responsibilities as an occupying power, never intended to fulfill them. In fact, it has dispossessed the Palestinians of their lands, of their orchards, destroyed their homes, killed their children. That is not very comfortable in Washington to make that kind of statement, especially not amongst Jewish Americans or people who are tightly tied to Israel. But it is the facts. And I can't wait to see what the judge says when he reads this case, if we get it to go forward. But that's how entrenched we are in it, because we are, as Gideon Levy from Haaretz has said so many times, every time that F-16 flies over Gaza and drops that 250-pound bomb and kills that child, you are guilty, America. You are as guilty as Bibi, as anybody in that right-wing Likud administration. You are just as guilty because you are enabling it. They could not do it without you. They are drawing on our largest war reserve stockpile in the world, which is in Israel. Not only that, they're getting extra munitions from all over the place. In fact, we're running so low now on certain key munitions that you've got the chairman of the Joint Chiefs and other service chiefs weighing in with the White House. You got to stop this. Between Ukraine and Israel, we are becoming toolless, ammunitionless, etc. So the military is even weighing into it now. That's beside the point. These wars, Ukraine and Gaza, are at the top of the list of 20 years of stupid, insane wars.